What if I told you that one anime changed the entire isekai genre forever? Or that another took psychological torment to new heights and flipped the entire concept of isekai on its head with pure comedic genius? Today, we're diving deep into the list of the most game-changing isekai anime of all time. Whether you love them or love to hate them, their impact on the genre is undeniable. Let's break it all down. If you love modern isekai, you have Mushoku Tensei, jobless reincarnation, to thank for it. This series doesn't just exist in the isekai genre, it defined it. Many of the tropes we see in today's isekai anime, they all trace back to this story. At its core, Mushoku Tensei follows Rudeus Grerat, a man who dies in his old world and gets reincarnated in a magical one. But unlike typical overpowered protagonists, Rudeus doesn't start as a hero. He starts as a broken person. His journey isn't about collecting abilities. It's about growing as a human being. What makes Mushoku Tensei stand out? First, the world building. Every culture, magic system, and even language feels real. Then there's the character development. Rudeus isn't a static, chosen one, but someone who makes mistakes, learns, and evolves. And let's not forget the animation. Studio Bind didn't just animate Mushoku Tensei, they brought it to life with film-level quality. Some call it the best isekai of all time. Others critique its darker elements. But one thing's for sure, this anime raised the bar for what an isekai could be. Most isekai protagonists get reincarnated with cheat abilities. Subaru Natsuki, he gets endless suffering. At first, ReZero, starting life in another world, seems like your standard power fantasy. Subaru is thrown into a fantasy world, meets a beautiful girl, and bomb. He dies. And then he comes back, again, and again, and again. His power, returned by death, lets him reset whenever he dies. But instead of making him overpowered, it turns his life into pure psychological horror. Every time Subaru fails, people die. Every time he makes a mistake, he has to watch his friends suffer, knowing he might be the only one who remembers it. His journey isn't about gaining strength, it's about enduring. The trauma, the despair, the loss. Subaru's pain makes his victories so much more powerful. But ReZero doesn't just excel in emotional storytelling. Its world is filled with intricate lore. Its side characters have actual depth, and its twists keep you on edge. And let's not forget White Fox's stunning animation and that unforgettable soundtrack. If Mushoku Tensei is about world building, ReZero is about emotional impact. It proves that isekai doesn't have to be just fun. It can be devastatingly real. Now let's flip the script. Imagine wanting to be a shadowy mastermind so badly that you spend your entire life training, plotting, and perfecting the art of deception, only to get reincarnated in a world where your delusions of grandeur suddenly become very real. That's the Eminence in Shadow. Our protagonist, Minoru Kaginu, doesn't dream of becoming a hero or a villain. He wants to be the ultimate puppet master, the unseen force controlling everything from the shadows. To him, life is just one big role-playing fantasy, where he's the mastermind of a grand conspiracy. But here's the twist. The conspiracy actually exists, and while he thinks he's just playing along, the people around him are dead serious. What makes this anime so brilliant is how it fully embraces its absurdity. It's a satire of every isekai trope you can think of, yet at the same time, it delivers some of the best action and world building in the genre. Minoru's unshakable confidence in his own nonsensical plans somehow always works out, making every encounter hilarious, unexpected, and strangely satisfying. And let's talk about the fight scenes. They are phenomenal. The animation is fluid, the choreography is intense, and the sheer power fantasy of watching Minoru, or rather, his alter ego Shadow, obliterate opponents without breaking a sweat is endlessly entertaining. And the misunderstandings? Pure comedic gold. His subordinates worship him as a genius strategist, while he's completely unaware that everything he makes up on the spot is actually real. The Eminence in Shadow is the ultimate power fantasy, but instead of taking itself too seriously, it plays everything to perfection. Whether you're here for the insane fights, the intriguing world, or just the sheer ridiculousness of it all, this anime is a must-watch. Now, let's talk about Overlord, an isekai anime that completely flips the typical hero's journey. Imagine logging into your favorite MMORPG for the final time before the servers shut down, only to find yourself permanently trapped inside it. That's exactly what happens in Overlord, when a regular player wakes up as his in-game avatar, Ain's Olgaun, an all-powerful undead overlord. But here's where Overlord stands out. This isn't a typical isekai power fantasy. Ain's isn't some righteous hero fighting for justice. He's an antihero, and sometimes an outright villain. Unlike most isekai protagonists who aim to save the world, Ain's has one goal: conquer it. From obliterating kingdoms to commanding terrifyingly loyal NPCs, Ain's story is one of cold-hearted strategy, manipulation, and absolute dominance. His lack of human emotions makes his decisions feel unpredictable. Sometimes he shows mercy, and other times he wipes out entire factions without a second thought. Watching him navigate this world as a tactical mastermind, orchestrating wars, overthrowing rulers, and expanding his influence, is both thrilling and chilling. The world of Overlord is one of its greatest strengths. It feels alive, with intricate magic systems, diverse races, and a deep political structure that adds layers of complexity to every encounter. The different factions aren't just mindless enemies. Each has its own culture, history, and motivations, making the world feel as immersive as the MMORPG it was based on. But Ain's overwhelming strength is both a blessing and a curse. While it's awesome to watch him decimate enemies with godlike ease, it sometimes removes the suspense from battles. When you know Ain's can't lose, the stakes can feel lower. Still, if you love dark fantasy, intricate world building, and a protagonist who fully embraces his role as an overpowered ruler, Overlord is an absolute must-watch. It redefines the isekai genre by proving that sometimes the final boss makes the best main character. Now, let's go from conquering kingdoms to struggling to afford rent. Konosuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world, takes every classic isekai trope, overpowered protagonists, noble quests, fantasy worlds, and destroys them for comedy. Meet Kazuma Sato, a shut-in NEET who dies in the dumbest way possible and is given the chance to reincarnate in a magical world. Sounds epic, right? Except he chooses Aqua, a goddess, as his companion, only to realize she's the most useless being in existence. And it only gets worse from there. His party? A masochistic knight who can't hit anything, and a mage who only knows one spell. An explosion so powerful she collapses after using it. What makes Konosuba special is its self-awareness. It knows how ridiculous isekai can be and leans into it. The slapstick comedy, the over-the-top reactions, and the constant failures make this anime hilarious. But beneath all the chaos, the show actually has a lot of heart. Kazuma, for all his sarcasm, does care about his dysfunctional team, and their bond, no matter how chaotic, feels genuine. If you want an isekai that doesn't take itself seriously, but still delivers unforgettable characters and laugh-out-loud moments, Konosuba is the perfect pick. What if a literal gate between Earth and a fantasy world suddenly opened in the middle of Tokyo? How would modern military forces fare against dragons, elves, and medieval kingdoms? That's the premise of Gate, an anime that takes isekai in a completely different direction, by bringing the real world into the fantasy world. When a mysterious portal unleashes an invasion on Tokyo, the Japanese Defense Force, JDF, fights back and pushes through the gate. But instead of simply destroying their enemies, they set up a military expedition, navigating diplomacy, warfare, and political intrigue in a world where magic and swords are the norm. The appeal of Gate lies in its realism. The military tactics, weapons, and strategies are meticulously researched, making every battle feel grounded. Watching tanks roll through fantasy landscapes and soldiers outmaneuver magic users is an insanely unique take on the genre. However, the show does have its flaws. The focus on military operations may not appeal to fans looking for a pure fantasy experience. And while the show delivers compelling action, it sometimes falls into familiar isekai tropes, like a harem forming around the protagonist, Yuji Itami. That said, if you love military strategy, political intrigue, and the ultimate battle of technology versus magic, Gate is absolutely worth watching. What if winning a single game meant life or death? No Game, No Life throws us into the world of Disboard, a realm where everything, from political disputes to territorial battles, is resolved through games. And at the center of it all, Sora and Shiro, a sibling duo known online as Blank, the undefeated gaming legends. When they're mysteriously transported to this world, they quickly realize that humanity is at rock bottom, struggling to survive in a world ruled by 15 other powerful races. Their mission? Game their way to the top, defeating every race in high-stakes competitions to make humanity the dominant force. What makes No Game, No Life so addictive is its brilliant strategy-driven storytelling. These aren't just games. They're psychological warfare. Every match forces Sora and Shiro to outthink, deceive, and completely break their opponents using logic, probability, and mind games so intense they leave you on the edge of your seat. And let's not forget the world building. Disboard isn't just a setting. It's a living, breathing puzzle filled with 16 distinct races, each with unique strengths, cultures, and gameplay mechanics. The show constantly expands its universe, making every encounter feel fresh and dangerously unpredictable. Of course, No Game, No Life isn't without flaws. The heavy use of fan service can feel out of place, sometimes interrupting the intense strategic battles. And with only one season, the anime leaves a lot unresolved, making fans desperate for a sequel that hasn't arrived yet. But despite that, this anime remains one of the most intellectually engaging isekai of all time. If you love big brain battles with mind-blowing twists, this is one you can't miss. Now, let's shift gears, because what if you reincarnated as the weakest creature in a fantasy world? That time I got reincarnated as a slime may sound goofy, but don't let the title fool you. This anime delivers some of the best world building in modern isekai. Our protagonist, Rimuru Tempest, starts as just a lowly slime. No arms, no legs, just a blob. But thanks to his unique predator ability, he absorbs skills from enemies, quickly evolving into a ridiculously powerful being. But slime isn't just about power. It's about building a nation. Instead of seeking domination, Rimuru wants to create a utopia where different races, goblins, orcs, dwarves, demons, can coexist peacefully. And what starts as a small village quickly grows into an unstoppable kingdom, where diplomacy, war, and alliances all play a role. However, slime isn't without its slow moments. The series often takes its time building up conflicts, meaning some arcs might feel dragged out. And while Rimuru's insane power is fun to watch, it can make certain fights feel one-sided. But if you're looking for an isekai with deep world building, memorable characters, and a surprisingly emotional core, this one is absolutely worth watching. Most isekai protagonists are destined for greatness. But what if the world immediately rejected you? That's exactly what happens in Tsukimiki Moonlit Fantasy. Makoto Misumi, our protagonist, is summoned to another world, but instead of being hailed as a hero, he's discarded by the goddess for being too ugly. Cast out to the edge of the world, he's left to survive on his own. What makes Tsukimiki stand out is how it embraces its absurdity. Sure, Makoto is overpowered, but the series keeps things fresh with a balance of hilarious character dynamics, unexpected challenges, and engaging world building. And let's not forget the action. This anime does not hold back on visually stunning fight sequences. Makoto's power is off the charts, but the real fun comes from how he uses it, especially when he clashes with divine forces and powerful foes. While Tsukimiki follows many classic isekai elements, its self-awareness and charming cast make it a breath of fresh air. It proves that even if the gods don't believe in you, you can still carve your own legend. Now, imagine surviving 17 years in another world, gaining insane powers, fighting deadly monsters, only to return home and realize you're completely irrelevant. That's the premise of Uncle from Another World, an anime that takes the isekai formula and mercilessly deconstructs it. When Uncle wakes up from a coma, his nephew Takafumi learns that he wasn't hallucinating. He was actually in another world, battling dragons, meeting elves, and being treated like absolute garbage the entire time. The problem? Uncle has zero social skills and no idea how to function in modern society. What makes Uncle from Another World so brilliant is its hilarious satire of classic isekai cliches. Instead of romanticized heroism, Uncle's memories are pure suffering, from being mistaken for an orc to constantly missing romantic opportunities with a tsundere elf who clearly liked him. But beneath the comedy, there's a layer of unexpected depth. Uncle's experiences, while ridiculous, have real consequences. He's not some celebrated hero. He's a man out of time, struggling to find meaning after losing 17 years of his life. His interactions with Takafumi reveal a bittersweet reality. No matter how powerful he became, his old world moved on without him. With its retro-inspired art style, sharp writing, and laugh-out-loud absurdity, this anime is a must-watch for anyone tired of generic isekai. It's proof that not every isekai protagonist gets a happy ending. And that wraps up our deep dive into some of the most unique and game-changing isekai anime out there. From the world-shaping power struggles of Overlord and That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, to the mind-bending strategies of No Game, No Life, and even the modern warfare madness of Gate. One thing is clear, isekai is more than just another anime genre. It's a portal into endless possibilities. But here's the real question. Which of these worlds would you want to be reincarnated into? Drop your pick in the comments below. And if you think we're done exploring isekai, think again. There are so many more insane, mind-blowing, and underrated isekai worlds to talk about, and you don't want to miss them. So if you love anime deep dives, theory breakdowns, and all things isekai, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next video, it's going to take us even deeper into the world of anime.